Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, today we'll be talking about albinism. What is albinism, or who is an albino? The albino is an individual whose cells that should normally form pigments for the skin, although present, are not actually forming these pigments. They do not have melanin, so they're not dark-skinned like you or I, or light-skinned like you or I, but their own skin is pale because of the absence of melanin. In its severest form, you have an individual with pale hair, probably white, pale skin, even the eyes have no color at all. And some of them do have some problem with their eyes. We call this nystagmus. Occasionally, you have the type of albinism in which the skin is yellow, the hair is yellow, and this gradually turns red as the individual grows older. What is the cause of albinism? It's a hereditary transmitted disease. It's transmitted in the fashion that unless both parents have this trait in them, which of course when you look at them is not manifested in them, but they do carry these traits, and this is transmitted into the offspring. And of course that child comes out as an albino. There's a lot of myth about albinism in this environment. I've heard it said that the child is an albino because he was conceived when the mother was in her periods. I mean, who would sleep with a menstruating woman anyway? Some people would say that it's because the wife has committed adultery. That is why she came home with an albino. All these are what they are, plain mates. It has nothing at all to do with albinism. It's an inherited disorder and has to be transmitted and be in both parents for the child to have it. But they themselves will not manifest because it's a recessive thing in them. Now, why are we talking about albinism? Why should we be interested? The first thing is that we need to know is that because the skin is not forming melanin, which is a protective pigment in the skin, they are so easily exposed to the ultraviolet rays of sunlight, which you and I will just go through and would have no problems. But if they are so exposed, the skin, because it's not protected by melanin, can easily be destroyed. And most of them end up with ulcers, which they will say, oh, I've had this wound for so long and it's not going, it's not healing. Of course, most of them, by the time they look at, you find that they are actually malignant, they are cancerous. The first thing to ensure is that this child is not exposed to the sunlight, the red glare of sunlight. Ensure that they wear wide-brimmed hats, and if they have to be outside, they are wearing long clothing to protect them. Or you also put some sunscreen on the skin that has to be exposed. You counsel this child not to go for a profession that will mean that he or she has to be outside, you know, like an engineer has to work outside. Or you also they're also advised not to do such jobs that will expose them to other sources of this ray that we are talking about, like the welders and people who have to work in some other chemical industries. Again, apart from ensuring that they are protected from the direct beam of light by wearing their wide-brimmed hats and sunscreens and long clothing, you also tell them that whatever they find on their skin that looks like an ulcer, like a wound, should be properly looked at. Because in them, until the test has been done and they've been told that it's not cancerous, whatever sore or wound they have on their skin is taken to be malignant until proven otherwise. So we must ensure that these children are properly looked after, and all these myths about whether they should eat salt or not eat salt, or they conceived during menses, or the mother had an adulterous relationship before they were born, should not cast any aspersion on them. They're like you and I. It's just that their own skin have cells that are not forming pigmentation that should protect them from the glare of a sun. So anytime you see an albino, you should be happy with them, treat them nicely, just advise them to keep out of the glare of the sun and to take care of their skin, and to ensure that they go to the hospital once they find any wound that is strange to them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.